Welcome back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a doctor of physical therapy, the owner of Anytime Fitness Rockrimmon and Anytime Fitness Monument. She is a former Division I soccer player and a personal trainer. Today's guest is Paige Butler. Paige, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
What's going on, Quentin? Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely, Paige. So we're going to just jump right into things. I've got a little bit of a warm-up, 4 questions. The first question that I have for you is, how do you start your day? Do you have some sort of specific morning routine that you like to stick to on most days?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty early riser. I go to bed early. I wake up at 5 a.m. usually every day, and I just start my morning with a devotional and just kind of processing how I'm feeling that day, whether it be I'm kind of not that well rested and I don't want to work out, or I'm ready to go, that kind of thing. So I look at a devotional, write down my thoughts, feelings that I'm having for the day, and I'll usually get right into a workout.
Okay, cool. Now, in regards to like that devotional, is that like kind of like a spiritual devotional, or kind of like a spiritual book, or what does that kind of look like?
So it's called, right now I'm reading Jesus Calling, and it's a spiritual devotional, and just kind of having God as a partner in your life, and knowing that there's someone always looking out for you, that kind of thing. So yeah, I start my mornings with that, and it's been really positive for me when I'm feeling low, or maybe I had some bad dreams, which happens to me. I have a lot of vivid dreams about my past and whatnot. So yeah.
Now, in regards to Jesus Calling, because I know that I've heard about that devotional a lot, and have had people, post it on their social media and stuff, is something that's kind of been a big part of their life. Has kind of that devotional part of your life been a part of your life for a long time, or is it just something kind of recent that started, or what does that kind of look like for you?
To be honest, I grew up Catholic and had that whole background, but I never really knew the true meaning of having God in my life as when I needed Him during hardships that I've faced in the past couple of years. So that's something new, and it's really helped me a lot. So
okay, cool. Awesome. Now, like in regards to like nutrition or food or anything of that nature, do you start your day off kind of with coffee, or do you start your day off with like, just like fasting? How does the nutrition and the food kind of look like for that morning?
So I'm a coffee girl, not a tea girl. So I'll wake up and I'll have a cup of coffee with like my morning readings, that kind of thing. And then I just go based off of intuition and intuitive eating. If I'm a little bit hungry and I know I have a hard workout coming on, I'll have a little something to eat before. Okay,
cool. Is there a favorite book or book that you like to gift often?
To be honest, I like to read a lot, but there's so many different preferences of people that like what they want to read, what they want to get out of life. So to different people, I have different suggestions, but I like The 4 Agreements. It's a book based on principles and morals of how to live your life, and I really enjoy it, so that's one that I typically gift. Okay,
cool. And I was actually listening to a podcast this morning while I was cooking breakfast and stuff, and they actually brought up The 4 Agreements, and I know I've heard about that book. I haven't personally read it yet, but I've heard a lot of positive things. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's super cool. Now, do you have a favorite quote or mantra? And if there's more than one, feel free to share. But has there been a quote or a mantra that has been just powerfully impacted your life at some point?
Yeah. So it's a pretty simple quote. It's just don't ever give up. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this quote didn't really have a lot of significance until later in my life when I was going through some struggles. But it's kind of like you don't get it until you get it. Like once you go through a hard time, you're like, oh, that's what it means to never give up.
For sure.
And so yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That's cool, and I think that's something that a lot of us kind of, and hopefully we're gonna touch on this a little bit later, but like mindset and stuff. And I think that's something that that kind of to live by. Don't ever give up. Like I think that's super powerful, because I think in our culture and in our society we've got a lot of laziness and stuff, and people at the first sign of adversity they quit or they give up. So I think for myself, just to continually be reminded of, hey, just keep going, don't give up. That's even though it is very simple and we hear that a lot, it's a powerful lesson. It's a powerful thing to really hold on to and try to apply in all areas of life, right? So
yeah, and then like in the grind and where you're struggling, that's really where you find yourself. So.
Right, cool. All right, so the last question, Paige, that I have for you is a part of the warm up. Do you have a favorite or most listened to podcast? And again, if there's more than one, feel free to share those.
You know, but now that I'm doing this podcast with you, and I'm going to definitely look into more podcasts. I know a lot of people have suggested a lot of fitness health podcasts. So I'm not a podcaster, but I am soon to.
We're gonna get you into the game, Paige,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So all right, sweet. So that kind of wraps up the warm up. Now, I like to kind of take my guests kind of through kind of their history, their backstory, just because I'm a firm believer that our backstory is a big part of who we are today. So if you don't mind sharing with myself and the listeners, Paige, a little bit about kind of where you grew up. You know, in the introduction, I said you're a former Division I soccer player, so I'm assuming sports was a big part of your upbringing. But if just kind of share where you grew up, kind of like what the home environment was like. Talk about sports, any other extracurricular activities, if you don't mind, and let's just start unpacking kind of that early childhood, and then we'll just kind of move on from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Rhode Island, small state. And when I was 6 years old, we moved to Florida. So I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, older. And so when we moved to Florida, that's what I really remember about my life, is just being on the beach, playing sports, playing soccer. I grew up in upper middle class, so I was definitely lucky to have the experiences I did, and never take advantage of those, or like I'll never I take full advantage of those and the things I've learned.
Absolutely.
But I mean, there's a lot there. I think my mom is probably one of the biggest influencers on my life today. Like when I was maybe 6 years old, I just remember like going on a run with her for the first time and entering like a 5K and that kind of thing. So that's like what I grew up on. It was always, tennis, golf, soccer, everything. So that's what kind of shaped my fitness.
Right. So your early childhood, a lot of your early memories are surrounded by physical activity, movement, sports, and things like that, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. So you said kind of one of your earliest memories in regards to like kind of physical activity is running with your mom. Was your mom an athlete, and did she participate in sports as she got older and stuff, or what did that kind of look like for her personally?
Yeah, so my mom was athletic her whole life. She had a tough upbringing, but she she played varsity, softball, basketball, all that. She had a tough upbringing, as I was saying, and I think that limited her opportunity to really go to college and play sports in college and that kind of thing. But so she did Ironmans.
Okay, cool.
That was our thing too.
Okay.
We did those together. I'll probably touch on that later. But she was like a tennis player. She played in the league. She was like a tennis pro coach, that kind of thing. Just all around, she did everything.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Now, was your dad on the scene, and was he also active or not necessarily?
So my dad and my mom grew up together. They knew each other since they were like 14. They were very active, that kind of thing. But late in my life, like early childhood, he was working a lot. He owned a home building company in Florida. So, to be honest, he was working a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. it was kind of my mom taking care of us kids and putting us through sports and that kind of thing. And, you know, he was there supportive and whatnot on the weekends, coming to my games and stuff. But, you know, he wasn't as active as my mom.
Yeah. So it sounds like kind of like more of that traditional family where mom's at home taking care of the kids, dad's kind of out taking care of, you know, making the money or whatever.
Yeah.
But definitely overall it sounds like a pretty solid upbringing and good home environment.
Yeah, I had a really good childhood.
Awesome.
I'm really lucky for that.
Okay, cool. Now, in regards to soccer, when did soccer? I know, like when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old or something, I started playing soccer. It didn't last very long. It wasn't really my favorite sport, but a lot of kids, even though it's kind of interesting because soccer's in America is not really that popular. I mean, I think it's gaining some traction, but it's not like, you know, basketball. It's not like football. And it's you know, not even up there with baseball, I don't think yet. But soccer seems to be kind of that sport where a lot of parents put their kids in at a very young age. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of what happened to you? Did you get into soccer at a very young age? And then I'm assuming since you were a Division I soccer player, you played it all through junior high and high school. So kind of just talk about soccer because it definitely had a pretty important part in your life when you were younger.
Oh, for sure. So my mom put us all in soccer when I was about 6, and I think it was to just put us in that team building experience. So that would be my 2 brothers and my sister as well. And I just fell in love with it. Like, I think my other 3 siblings, they did not like soccer. They went on to like tennis or something.
There you go. Yep.
But yeah, I just fell in love with it the moment I started playing, and I was really fortunate because I lived very close to IMG Soccer Academy, which is in Bradenton, Florida. And I would start going to camps there, and it's a prep school for all sports. It's really big now for football, IMG football.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so I was very fortunate to attend that, and throughout high school and whatnot, I was still figuring out if I wanted to go with soccer or triathlon, because that was something I was also very competitive in. I was swimming and you know, biking and running on a team in Florida. So I went with soccer. It was always my dream to be a college soccer player and even pro.
Yeah.
But obviously things changed. But yeah, I mean, it shaped me to who I am today. And
so, what was if you remember, like kind of you said you kind of immediately fell in love with soccer. Kind of what was kind of that love in regards to soccer? Was it just kind of that team aspect? Was it because you can kind of just like run around and kind of be free, or what? If you remember, what was kind of that click for you in regards to having that love for soccer right away?
Not gonna lie, it's because I was good. I was like, I felt
that's
good.
Awesome. Yeah.
That was like the first thing where I like stood out, and I was like, okay, because I've always felt like throughout my life, like I'm good. I'm like a little above average at like most things.
Right.
Like I have too many things, but that was like the one thing where I was like, okay, I'm a little bit above average.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's great.
So there was I'm assuming that because you were kind of had that natural talent. That kind of added fuel to the fire, and then I know for myself with sports, there's a lot of, you know, the older you get and the better you get and things like that, there's a lot of positive reinforcement because you're getting attention, so that just kind of adds to the fuel to the fire. Even at some point where you're like, man, I don't really like what I'm doing, but you know, we're getting that positive reinforcement, we're getting recognition, so that can just kind of continue to get us to move in that direction, even though it's like, man, I don't know if I love this anymore. And I think you see that a lot in college, and I'm sure you probably saw that just in Division I athletics. I think at some point there's a lot of people that they're just there because they know they're getting their school paid for or something of that nature. It's not really for the love of the game. And I really think that barring an injury or something like that, a tragic event, a lot of those people that we see make it to professional athletics, or those people that make it to that next level in life, it's because there's that passion there for what they're doing. The people that kind of fall off are, you know, they had that natural talent, but maybe at some point they kind of fell out of love, but they just continue to do it because they felt like, that's their identity, or, somebody's kind of pressuring them to it. So,
Yeah, for sure.
would you agree with that? Did you see some of that kind of like when you went to college and were playing Division I sports?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think the quote that stuck with me the most during that time, because it is a grind, like it's a job in college. Like you go to practice, you go to school, and you go to sleep, because that's what's going to get you to get on to the next day and perform at your highest. But it was do it for the girl who fell in love with the game. And
Right.
That's kind of the quote that sticks with me the most, because I remember who I was when I fell in love with it, and that was the passion I held throughout my years.
I like that quote. That's a powerful quote.
Yeah.
That's super cool. All right, so we got so super active growing up and everything. Was there anything else outside of sports that was kind of an outlet for you, Paige, or was really, when you look back at your childhood and those younger years, was it basically sports?
Yeah, to be honest, it was all sports, and I
Yep.
think that's why now I've definitely transformed over the last couple of years with my identity and stuff, and just through the experience of overtraining and whatnot. I
Right.
figured out, like, okay, I do need to dig a little deeper and figure out what really lights my soul on fire.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
yeah.
so that's probably been the biggest transformation, and I'll touch on that a little bit probably. But yeah, sports.
Yeah,
fitness.
I know how that is, because I look back on my younger years and it's like literally all I cared about was sports. Like
Yeah.
it's like, all I watched was ESPN and games, and it's like it was always practice, lifting weights, everything in my life, my eating, everything when I was younger surrounded around sports and getting better and making the team and all that type of stuff. And then once we will touch on it, but that just kind of that identity thing. And then when I quit football after my freshman year in college, it was like, dude, I didn't know who I was, because that was everything. So we won't go down that rabbit trail yet, but I can definitely just have that understanding of where you're coming from, where it's like you look back, it's like, well, it was sports. But there's a lot of valuable things, and I do want to ask you this, Paige, because sports is popular in our culture for a lot of different reasons, but I really think a lot of parents encourage their kids or force their kids into sports because there are so many life lessons that we can learn within sports. And I know there's 1,000 of them, but what's maybe one that sticks out for you personally that you took away from all of your sport athletic experience when you were younger?
I think the being uncomfortable, and you don't grow unless you get to that uncomfortable stage. And I think a lot of people stay in this flat line of everything's good, everything's easy. They never challenge themselves, and they're never gonna grow or see like the amazing things that we can accomplish in life. And
Cool.
So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned and put to practice.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, that's another super powerful, just not even a sport lesson, but life lesson. Like, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because like you said, that's where growth happens. Outside of that comfort zone. So, all right. So now you played Division I soccer, like we've mentioned several times already. What was that experience? Was that kind of like a dream fulfilled, or just kind of share a little bit about what that meant to you to be able to go to college and play the game that you loved from a very young age?
Yeah, I mean, I had a great experience playing soccer, but so I did transfer a couple times, and so when I transferred to St. Francis, the school that I was at, and I got my doctorate for physical therapy, I had to sit out a year.
Okay.
So I was, a practice player basically,
Yep.
and that's very hard, because you're putting everything out there with the only knowing that you're gonna sit on the bench because you can't play it.
Right.
And so that was pretty tough. And what happened after that is I came back my next year, and it was my senior year. And in the fourth game of the season, I ended up tearing my ACL.
Oh wow. Okay.
And that at that point was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, and it was it was awful, because I had just sat out a year, and then this same like 4 games after that. I tore my ACL, and then, that's obviously like an 11-month recovery until you're actually back on the field, ready to go, feeling confident, able to play contact. So, that was a struggle in itself. And then, so crazy thing is, the same weekend, the next year, I'm playing again, and I actually got a call the night of after a game, that same Labor Day weekend, that my mom had just been killed by a drunk driver. And so my soccer career, like in college, was tough. Like it was just kind of like one thing after another. So my last year of soccer, I just decided to put away the bullshit and just like play for myself and my mom and just have fun with it, and get through the struggles, because the season just started, my last year of eligibility, and I was going through losing my mom, so it was rough. It was really yeah.
Overall, though, I mean, was it a great experience, though? Would you say with the soccer?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think anyone that like loves their sport should go to college for their sport, and it just gives you a lot of dedication, perseverance throughout your college career. Like whatever, if you're studying to become a physical therapist or any kind of degree, I mean, it just made my whole career and studying, like I was on point, had to be.
Right. So I want to touch on a couple things here, just kind of like in regards to college. So was your undergraduate then some sort of like kinesiology or exercise science, or what was that degree before you went into physical therapy?
So at the school I went to, it was actually a 6-year program.
Oh, okay.
So you had to do 3 years undergrad, and then it went into 3 years grad.
Oh, cool.
So you had to be accepted in undergrad to be able to actually go right in. So it was Bachelor of Science, and then from there you graduated in 3 and went into your grad studies.
Okay, cool. So there was like an actual track for people that wanted to get into physical therapy. Then it was, okay, wow, I guess I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was really nice. A couple more schools are getting it, but it's more of an accelerated program rather than going 4 years. And then
right, yeah. Sweet. Now, how did you kind of determine that you wanted to get into physical therapy? Because, you had your ACL tear, but that was later in your college career, so that really wasn't anything that played into that factor of you choosing a career in physical therapy. So what kind of piqued your interest to follow that avenue?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do something in the health industry. Obviously when I was younger, I was carrying around little doctor kits, like play kits, and I wanted to be a doctor. But I think moving forward, just knowing that sports was such a big part of my life, and just fitness in general, and knowing that if I did not have that, or I could not because of an injury or something I was going through, I would want to be able to help someone going through that and help them restore function and get back to living their best life.
Yeah, okay,
because
cool.
Movement is key.
I
think movement is what brings happiness.
Yeah.
Can't move, then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I firmly believe that movement is in our DNA, and if we're not moving, actually my guest yesterday, we talked about he's like a life coach and things like that, and I asked him about the importance of fitness and just overall kind of health and things like that, and he said if we're not moving, we're dying. Yeah. And I think I've probably heard that at some point, but that was just a good reminder of like, man, movement is in our DNA, and we were made, we were born, we've evolved, however you want to word that, to move, and again, if we're not moving, then something's wrong, something's not right. So I agree 100%.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Cool. All right. So in regards to physical therapy, you said it was like 6 years. So after 6 years, then when you graduated, you were a doctor of physical therapy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So what did kind of like, okay, let's transition into then, if you don't mind, and I know you don't, because we kind of talked before we turned on the mic, and for full disclosure for everybody out there, Paige and I have met several times before today, which is kind of a rarity. With most of my guests, I've never really met them. I just reach out to them through Instagram, and then we just connect, and the first time we meet is for the podcast conversation. But Paige is, like I said in the introduction, the owner of the Anytime Fitness in Colorado Springs, the Rockrimmon one, and I come up here once or twice a week, and she stretches me out. So we've had some pretty awesome conversations prior to this podcast, and before I turned on the mic today, I asked her if it was okay if we talked about her mom, because she just mentioned a few minutes ago about her mom being on a bicycle and being struck by a driver and passing away. And I know, Paige, this has been something that you had to deal with and go through and work through in your personal life.
Yeah.
And I know that it's something that, especially like through social media, you've been really open lately and talking about it and sharing about it. So let's just kind of talk about that, because obviously that's a game changer for you personally in your life.
Yeah.
So you're in college and everything, just finishing up this injury. You said you got that phone call that your mom had been struck by somebody on her bicycle. Just, would you walk us through the best that you can, the best that you remember, kind of like some of those emotions and kind of what that initial response was like for you, and then how you kind of mentally worked through that as a young woman?
Yeah. So it was Labor Day weekend, and we just had finished up a game against Pittsburgh, University of Pitt, and we were on the bus ride back, and I texted my mom and I just said, "Hey, call you when I get back." It was Sunday night, and Sunday night for soccer players is Sunday fun day,
Mm-hmm.
before, and so we were getting back to my house, and I was getting ready, getting out of the bus and everything, and I got a phone call from my sister, and I was busy getting ready, so I just ignored it at first, and then I got a phone call from my older brother, and he, got on the phone, and he's like hysterical, and I was like, what's going on? And he said, mom's dead, and I was like, I kind of was just like, I hit the ground, to be honest, because it's just kind of surreal. And, come to find out, she was riding her bike back from her workplace, and she rode bikes because she trained on her bike for like triathlons and stuff.
Right.
And so she was hit and like instantly killed by a drunk driver, and yeah, that is the call I got, and it was pretty crazy, surreal, like going back to those emotions, and just you can't comprehend it.
Right.
It's like it's obviously you've heard of the grieving process, and it's shock, and then you go into denial and all that, and so it was just shock and disbelief. So yeah, went through that. You want me to just kind of talk more about like my relationship with my mom?
Yeah, well, and you've touched on your relationship with your mom. She was like very influential in your life,
Yeah.
and she was kind of the one that took care of you kids growing up. So, and you did mention like she's, and kind of earlier in our conversation, like your mom was and has been like the biggest influence in your life. So yeah, if you just want to kind of touch on that a little bit more, because I know just through looking at your Instagram and stuff, and then you've mentioned you did the Ironman and stuff too.
Yeah.
So that was something that you and your mom really, in regards to that physical culture and that athleticism, you guys kind of shared that in common, right?
Yeah, and so my relationship with my mom was, I think it was, obviously I'm going to say it's different than most and special because it's my mom, but for me I really did feel that it was very special. Like when I was growing up, I wasn't hanging out with friends, I was hanging out with my mom. Like
Right,
that's just
right.
the relationship we had, and like I'd call her every day and talk to her. I told her almost everything, and so for me, when my mom first died, it was very hard for me because I would see friends with their moms and how they interacted, not really caring about how they made their mom feel.
Right.
And so that was really challenging for me at first because I would get really upset. But then I understood, they don't know what it's like. And until you know what it's like to have that loss in your life, then you'll understand the significance of your relationships and how you treat others and that kind of thing. And so, my mom was my rock, everything. She helped me get through physical therapy school, which is pretty tough, and the challenges of being a D1 soccer player and all that. So when I lost my mom, it really made me a totally different person. Obviously, I went through a lot of interesting struggles and finding who I was, and I lost a lot of friends, and I don't know if you would call them friends because, it's interesting. It's really interesting who's there and understands, and then, but you can't take that on to yourself. You have to understand it's just because they don't know.
Right,
don't know what you're going through.
So, in that process, in regards to after your mom passed away and stuff, and you just talked about trying to kind of find yourself. And you're still in school now. Did this happen your junior or senior year?
So this happened I just graduated. Let's see. I'm going into my year of physical therapy school. I was in my first year.
Okay, so you'd already gone 3 years of undergraduate, right? And so this was your first year of the doctorate study of physical therapy. Okay. So I mean, you obviously you kind of were, you were on the soccer team, so you had some friends and stuff like that, and people around you. But so like, what was kind of like that? Like after the process, after your mom passed away, obviously there's that initial response, and having to go through the family stuff with the funeral and all that. But like after all of that stuff, and when you were just kind of like because I'm sure it was just like a whirlwind. I'm sure initially emotionally, and mentally, physically, everything was just kind of a whirlwind. But at some point, the whirlwind is kind of over. You're back at college. You have to kind of step back into the reality of your life. What did you have to work through, and what type of things did you have to really come to realize about Paige and yourself personally, just to continue to move forward?
Yeah, so now that I'm remembering, because obviously it's kind of a lot to plug back into.
For sure, no.
But so my mom died in September. That's basically middle of soccer season.
Okay.
My senior year, my last year. So after soccer, that's a loss in itself. You'll hear college athletes talk about how losing their identity after they're done with college sports. Absolutely. So that was hard already. And so what happened was my mom and I were actually planning to do an Ironman after I had finished soccer and into that spring, Okay. So for me, what I did right away after soccer is I just started training, and I started training for a purpose. And so what I did was I put out a GoFundMe page for Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Okay, yeah.
And I started at my school trying to promote fundraising opportunities to help me fundraise for the race I was going to do for my mom. So I signed up for a half Ironman first and then the full.
Okay.
And so that is where I spent time with my mom, and I talked to her. Like I would go swimming and I would just talk to my mom. And I would go on, 10, 13-mile runs, and I would just talk to my mom. And that's where I grieved, and I really found out who I was. And not a lot of people understood, why after soccer I wanted to go so hard into something.
Right.
Because most people were like, are you, tired? Don't you need to rest? And I was just like, no, I need to work through this. So I spent a lot of time by myself that whole year. And it was tough because I also had just gotten out of a 7-year relationship.
Okay.
And so I was battling being by myself and just dealing with that. And but I knew that's how I was going to grow, being uncomfortable and learning who I was deep down and what I wanted out of my life, and not just hiding what I was going through by trying to be with someone else or be with friends that didn't understand what I was going through.
Right. So that period was just kind of a period of you really trying to figure out who you were and kind of trying to lay that foundation of who you wanted to become moving forward. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was honestly the hardest time in my life for sure. Mm-hmm. I just focused on the goal, and the goal was I'm going to pass that finish line because that's what my mom and I were going to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show that nothing is impossible because that's what my mom always told me. She's like, if you want to do something, you just set your mind to it and you do it.
Amen.
So
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So now, had you done a full Ironman prior to your mom passing away?
No.
Oh,
so
okay.
when I was 18, you have to be 18 to do Ironman.
Okay.
And I was in soccer, right? So,
Mhm.
but we did a half together. So that was, when you turn 18, you can either do a half Ironman or you can do a full.
Okay.
And so I did the half with my mom.
Okay.
And so that's the race, the same one. It was Florida half. That's the same one I did when I, that April after my mom had died.
Okay, so after your mom had passed away, then you kind of dedicated that full Ironman to her, and then you were able to accomplish that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, have you since that first Ironman, have you done any more full Ironmans after that, or was it that's the only one up to this point?
So I did that in September 2017.
Okay.
So, not gonna lie, that took a lot out of me. Not just physically, but just emotionally.
Right,
I
right.
mean, I don't even, looking back on it, I, think I'm crazy, right? Because I was going through doctorate school, and I'm training for a full Ironman by myself without a coach. And most people get coaches for that.
Right.
But, I mean, I grew up doing them when I was, 13. I did a first triathlon. So it was just, something I knew how to do. I knew how to train for. And so, I after that one, I'm not gonna lie, I took a break. It just the emotional toll it takes on me, thinking about getting on a bike
Right.
or
Right.
that kind of thing. I was like, I need to just relax
For
and
sure.
that kind of thing. I mean, it still brings me happiness and fulfillment. I'll still swim and run and bike, but I can't put that pressure on me of doing a full one right now.
Right,
or that
right.
kind of thing. Because I always go all out. That's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, we've
my issue right now.
we've talked about kind of, I think you and I have, I know you and I have that similarity of
Yeah.
either we're all in or we're all out. There's nothing in between, and it can be a blessing or it can be a curse, just
Yes.
depending upon kind of our own personal mindset. But
Yeah, for sure.
and now I want to see if you would agree with this or not, Paige. Now, because you are type A, you're a go-getter, and that's really, it sounds like your mom was kind of that type of an individual as well, and she really instilled that and pushed that in you, which is great. But now, after she had passed away, you kind of went straight from soccer, high-level Division I soccer athlete. You went right into the Ironman. You're studying to get your doctorate in physical therapy, and you said that alone time, on the bike, swimming, running was kind of therapeutic, and it helped you kind of find out who you were. But do you think also because that kind of that drive and that discipline and that focus and just that hard work for people like you and I, it can be kind of like a checkout mechanism for us? So do you think that was kind of you just kind of doing what you knew how to do to kind of cope with what you were going through at the time?
Oh, for sure, and that's a lesson I learned after losing my brother. Now experiencing a second loss is
Right.
I cannot take that same checkout method
Mhm,
because yeah, that's a really good point. Because this time I tried to do that when I lost my brother, and I lost him last May, and it was just I burned out. I was like,
Yeah.
I am tired.
Yeah.
I would try to wake up and do the same thing that my body would do a year or two ago, and it just wasn't there. I was having a lot of more issues this time.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot, and
I got so much.
I know, and you're so young too. That's the crazy thing. I was thinking about it just, I think this morning about just my conversation with you, and again, for the listeners, they have to understand that we've had pretty good conversations when you stretch me out and things
Yeah.
like that. So I know quite a bit of your story coming into this, but I was just thinking about, and I was, kind of preparing for this and going through your Instagram and some of your posts, and I'm just like, dude, this girl is young and she's been through a lot, and it's crazy. But so that's why, I was excited to talk to you today, Paige,
Yeah.
because you've been through so much at such a young age, and I know that because we've had these discussions previously that you've really worked through some of the stuff, and that's why I'm excited to have you share some of this stuff. So you just talked about, we just finished up talking about the loss of your mom and some of the stuff that you work through. Then you just talked about, the loss of your brother. Now I want to touch on the loss of your brother, but I want to hang out for a couple minutes on this thing of kind of putting pressure on ourselves and burnout, because again, this is something that I can, agree with you on and relate to, but I want you to touch on it, because it's not about me, but like we drive so hard and we just go after everything so hard and we put so much pressure on ourselves. Has that caused a lot of like anxiety and turmoil inside of you in your life, or not per se?
Oh, I think absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like, it's only been 2 weeks since I've literally felt a sense of freedom.
Right.
Since I stepped back and reduced my training and this pressure that I put on myself for no reason. Like, it was almost like I'm putting pressure on myself, and it's not like I have to wake up for practice in the morning. I'm not an athlete anymore. Like, I am an athlete, but I don't have that anymore.
Right.
And so I was putting all these external pressures on me for no reason, and I was, kind of getting down and down to the nitty gritty, like what's going on inside of me that is causing me to kill myself in my workouts, be so strict on myself with my eating, no enjoyment. Like it was just so weird. And so I think what was going on is I've suffered a lot of toxic relationships in my past through my ex, and then and also in my family. When grief happens and trauma, you get some toxicity in those.
Absolutely.
And so I think what was going on is I wanted to punish myself in a way for feeling a happiness and wanting to move, not necessarily move on with my life, but move on with my life knowing that I don't have my mom and my brother anymore, but I still have to move on. And like having days like where I want to be happy, but like knowing that I don't have them anymore, and it made me just want to punish myself and feel guilty for wanting to be someone new and starting a new life without them. And so I would just, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I'd go in the gym, and I'd literally go like a 2-hour like HIIT workout where you're just nonstop, just balls to the wall, like going all out. And then I would hop on the cardio equipment and I'd go like 40 minutes on the stair climber, and I just do this, and I would track my food and all this kind of stuff, and I didn't know why I was doing it, and I just burnt out, and it was almost like I didn't know if it was a self-worth thing. I didn't know like what I was working through, and I really just dived down deep, and I figured out what was going on. And now I'm learning, like, it's okay to take a rest day. It's okay to go easy, and, you don't have to be all out. And so that's been one of the hardest things to learn. And I think unless you're not like you or me, it's hard to understand that. Like, most people are like, oh yeah, I go to the gym 4 days a week, and I kind of, I go in and I might do like a couple curls, that kind of thing. And I'm like, it's a totally different mindset.
I don't get it. I know, I don't get it.
I can't do it, and I wish some days I did.
Right.
But now I'm learning that.
Cool.
So that's what's helped me so much.
That's very beautiful, and I can relate to all of that. Now, I really think that, exercise, for you, it sounds like, has been a huge coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Just like you said, when there's loss in a family, there can be toxicity, and I really feel like that results from different people respond in different ways to loss and different things in life. You know what I mean? And for you, because sports has been your life for so long, and that outlet for you, it's like we and you specifically kind of just go, it's that easy route for us. It's that checkout mechanism. It's that coping mechanism. Because if I look at my life, it's like lifting weights, fitness from a very young age, it's always there. Like, I can always go to fitness to check out, to get lost, to whatever I need to do. And I really feel like as you're unpacking your story and sharing your story, Paige, you've always turned to sports, athletics, physical fitness to cope and to kind of check out and to block out whatever is going on in your life. And I know just this last week when you were stretching me out, you started talking about that freedom and some of those things you've been discovering over the last couple of weeks, and I was just like, inside, I think I even expressed it verbally to you, but inside I was just like, very, very happy. And I think I even said something like, you feel free, don't you? And you're like, yeah, because that's some stuff that I've had to work through, and I'm still working through. But now in regards to just that freedom, because I do remember, even as I'm speaking out loud to you right now, I do remember, like, I kind of finished your sentence. I said, you feel free, and you're like, yeah, for sure. And I say that because, like, I know kind of what you're going through at this stage of the game in regards to that fitness and stuff. So just talk about that freedom. Like, because a lot of people that are going to listen to this, and like we said just a minute ago, like, a lot of people don't understand all this, because a lot of people, like, their checkout is sitting in front of the TV for 3 hours, getting on Instagram or Facebook and scrolling for 2 hours, or going out to eat and, getting drunk or whatever. A lot of people don't understand how fitness and stuff like that can be like an addiction, a coping mechanism, and all of that, and how learning to step into that freedom and kind of separating from all that is a positive thing. So the best that you can up to this point, because I know this is kind of a fresh revelation for you, but what does it mean to have that freedom from kind of physical fitness and not really being addicted to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's intense. Like, it's a intense feeling. You're like, wow, like, I have so much time on my hands now, and I have so much to work on and get my body healthy and my mind healthy and everything. And I think for me, like, it was to the point where I would be going out with, like, family or friends, and it's like I was contemplating whether I wanted a drink or not, because I'm like, I shouldn't have a drink. It could really mess up my training schedule tomorrow.
Right.
Or it could mess up, like, my physique or something. Like, that's to the point it was getting. Like, it was, like, insane. I'm like, oh my God, have a glass of wine, do what you got to do.
Right.
And so now that I have, like, this sense of freedom, I'm like, okay, I can wake up, I can do what I feel, I can do it with my body. My body knows me. It's been with me for 26 years, you know. I know my body best, and I'm going to listen to it. So, like, if I don't get more than 8 hours of sleep, I don't work out the next day, because I know that my body's not going to feel good.
Absolutely.
I don't push it anymore. I think about, if I'm craving something, I'll eat it, and I'll know that I'm going to be fine. Like, it's kind of type A stuff, and sometimes I get a little obsessive with it, but, I just focus on, like, things that make me happy and the simple things in life. Like, now I focus on, like, okay, I can't wait to spend time with my fiance, do what I want. I'm not too tired to do anything anymore. I'm like, I could stay up all night now. Like, before I was like, I need to get to bed,
Right.
And so it's just a different mindset, and, you really do feel free, and it's all my fault for doing that to myself. But, it's how I grew up, and it's how I always kind of got through things, and now I'm understanding that there's other ways to get through things.
And that's beautiful, and I believe that in all of this, you're really discovering that Paige Butler is more than an athlete. You're more than physical fitness, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good thing. I like it. It's awesome. So, and I really appreciate what you said as you were kind of unpacking that. You said, you do what you feel now, and you mentioned earlier when I asked about your eating in the morning, you had mentioned the word intuitive, and I think, personally, that's something I really have to work on. But I'm hearing a lot more people through the podcast platform talk about intuitive eating and just being kind of in touch with your body and things like that. So you said do what I feel, and I think that's a powerful discovery for you personally. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
All right, so let's talk. I just want to touch on a little bit. We've already kind of talked about the loss and working through that, but very recently you also lost your brother. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit about that, but the great thing that you said even earlier is that because you went through that with your mom and you're kind of coming into this new discovery of yourself personally, you've handled the loss of your brother in a different way than you did with your mom. So kind of just share maybe what happened in regards to your brother, and then how you've been able to handle this differently than the loss of your mother.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely think that my family has like a history of some anxiety and depression. I think a lot of people are prone to it, but my family more. So my younger brother, he struggled a lot after my mom passed, with drugs and addiction, and it's very hard on the family. It's, you're dealing with trauma already, and then you have this addictive personality and toxicity of that relationship, and so he passed from an overdose last May, and so the crazy thing about it is my fiance and I, Derek, had just got engaged like 5 days before that, and this is like the happiest I've ever been since my mom died.
Right.
Like, I worked on myself. Like, me and my fiance, we just bought a business. We bought our first gym.
Yep.
And then we got engaged, and it's like you're at the highest point of your life at that point. Like, it's great. Life is great. You have all these great things going on. And then, like, 5 days later, like, my brother passed, and it was just like what the hell? Like, seriously, like, let's go one more time. Like, it was just so hard to really even fathom what was going on. Like, I got another phone call, like I never thought I was gonna get another phone call like that, and it happened, and it's like, it was a lot of guilt. Like, I felt like guilty because I wish that I knew more about mental health and how I could help my brother.
Right.
Through addiction and that kind of thing. But also, like, you're trying to figure yourself out.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
And so, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself at first, and then after, like, I understood, like, everyone has themselves and they need to figure things out, and there are places where you can get help and support, but some people just, I don't know if it's not that they're not strong enough. I just think that addiction is so powerful, and it's really sad. But so after my brother passed, I think that's what really showed. So my fiance and I think we've been through like everything that you can go through, like in a relationship, like in the first like week of being engaged.
That's crazy.
So like I know we're gonna make it.
Right? Yeah. No, I know you will too.
So like honestly, like having Derek though helped me a lot versus when I was, without my mom. I was single, and
right.
It was a lot. It was tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what happened and challenged us was, we were coming off this high, and it was hard for him to see me so hurt. Mm-hmm. When we should just both be so happy.
Right.
And so that really challenged me, and was very hard for a long time. I don't think I started getting out of like some anxiety and depression until like maybe April, May, even May this year.
Yeah,
like
very recent.
Like since a year. So I think everyone's story is different, and
Absolutely.
Grief and journey and whatnot, and there's just so many, like mine was a very messy grief. Like I didn't talk to my family for a whole year.
Mm.
And so I'm just starting to work on those relationships now. And it's tough. There's no manual out there to help you either.
Yeah, well there's no, some people maybe within a religious setting might say there's a manual for life, but there is no manual for life, because each of us has a different life to live, and different things come up for all of us, and it's just like, man, like you just gotta. I think the biggest thing for me personally, and what I really like to teach and to preach, and a lot of my guests share this, is like we've got to have a foundation in our lives, and that foundation is who am I? Yeah. Like what? Like the question why? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Like what's my fire? What's my passion? It's like if you don't know who you are, if you don't have that simple basic foundation in your life, like life is gonna be crazy, and overall life's gonna suck, because like we are here, all of us human beings are here for a purpose, and we need to know what our purpose is. We need to again have that foundation, because if we don't, we're just gonna get taken with the currents of life. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
And I think that's kind of, Paige, what you've really been discovering through just over this last year, and I think even recently, like for you, you're really trying to do a better job of laying that foundation of who you are and working through that. Is that fair to say?
Oh, for sure.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, if I would have, like, if you would have asked me back then, like, oh, this is what's going to happen in your life, I literally would have laughed because I had an easy life.
Right.
I had an easy life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people have, things that they struggle through, but it's through the struggles where you find out who you are. And I'm happy I had the struggles. I mean, I know that sounds weird, but I mean, it's made me appreciate things that
Absolutely.
I never would have thought I would have appreciated before.
Well, and you've said it yourself earlier, is like, we have to get uncomfortable. I mean, that's you said, like the greatest lesson you've learned from sports is, just that learning to be uncomfortable, and that's where we grow. And a lot of times in life will throw something at us and get us out of that comfort zone. And if we're open to it and willing to go through it, we will grow and mature and find out a lot about ourselves and find out a lot about other people too.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why I love the podcast. That's why I love having conversations with people like you, Paige, is because, like you just said it earlier, like everybody has a story. We all have a different story, and what you're sharing today is going to be able to relate to somebody and positively impact them. You know what I mean? So it's cool stuff. Now, I want to, we've been coming up, we're 5 minutes away from already going an hour, so that's awesome. But there's a few more things I want to talk about. And it's crazy because you're 26 and like there's so much. But I do want to get into, you being a physical therapist, because that's your profession and you do a great job of it. And it's just a big part of who you are. But now, in regards to physical therapy and kind of like working with clients, working with people, I know there's different philosophies, there's different schools of thought with like everything in life. But what's kind of like, let's just say there's somebody that walks into your clinic, into the gym here where you have your practice. What's kind of that going to look like for you assessing them and figuring out what they specifically need from you?
Well, the difference now, before working in like an outpatient clinic where I was working as a physical therapist, is now I have freedom to do the assessment and the eval and spend as much time with this person as I want. Before, it was based on like productivity and doing things a certain way that the owner wanted you to do and that kind of thing based on insurance and whatnot. And so here I just practice as a cash pay physical therapist, and I spend the time I want with the person, and so I'll just kind of see what's holding them back. Cause the thing is, I look more on also a training, like I also look on a training aspect too. Look at the full body and how they're functioning throughout their day, not just on the injury. I want to know everything about the person and how I can help in any way. Because a lot of people will get frustrated with their progress on just one area of their body, so I try to focus on, okay, let's work on something else that you can work on, that you can focus on. So, I just go through a past medical history. I look at how their body's functioning on a daily basis, looking at functional movements, so movements we perform on a day-to-day basis, using, different muscle groups, seeing if they have any compensations, that kind of thing. So, I get to spend time with them and create a relationship, which is also the most important and the most different thing about working in like an outpatient clinic versus how my profession is now, is I get to, create that relationship and not focus on, oh my gosh, I have to document, and then focus on who's coming in 5 minutes. It's just totally different. Mm-hmm, and it's like helps my anxiety, right?
Yeah.
I can actually sit down and really give the person my all, which is so that's what, I do here, and I love it. Yeah.
Now, your population overall here at Anytime Fitness in Colorado Springs, the Rockrimmon one, where you kind of practice out of and train out of, the population, from my understanding, what you shared with me is an older population overall. Is that correct?
Yeah, I typically have more geriatrics.
Okay.
And, I honestly really appreciate working with them
Mm-hmm.
because they appreciate more what I can do for them.
Right.
Whereas, like, I've been an athlete. I know what it's like. You go in there and you kind of expect. You're
Yeah.
like, I deserve to be stretched and to be, like, given the best treatment.
Right,
like,
right.
I'm an athlete. Like,
Uh-huh.
I need it. Whereas they're so happy, like, when they don't have pain in their hip because, you did a hip mobilization
Right,
on them.
right.
And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So, just little things like that. I mean, I would say, like, I see 8 to 10 people a day, and my population is like probably like 75% are geriatrics.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
And I
like-
come in once or twice a week, so I bring down
Yeah.
that mean a little bit, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now in regards to, because I know this is really important just in life in general. In regards to like building that relationship with your clientele and being able to spend the time that you want to spend with them, have you seen just that kind of like that, especially with the older population and stuff? I'm sure just that time that you get to spend with them and connect with them, because I'm sure some of them have lost their spouse or lost loved ones and have gone through some different physical ailments and physical scares and stuff like that. So have you seen just like that, being able to pour that time into them and building that relationship with them, just that really maybe increases or betters their health?
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing, like you say, I'm so young, right? And I actually spend more time talking to people that are older than
Right,
me
yeah.
because I relate to them. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
value our relationships, and that's another reason I really like working with that population. But, yeah, I think that them being able to open up and me being able to empathize and let them know, like, I know what it feels like, helps my
Yeah.
profession and how I practice.
Absolutely, that's cool. Now I wanna touch on, and you've brought up Derek and stuff, and I've had a couple interactions and connections and talks with Derek. Super cool guy. And you've shared a little bit about just kind of like what you guys have been through in the early part of your relationship, but just overall speaking, because he's a cool dude, I really enjoy talking to him. What has Derek meant, and just that positive relationship that he's brought into your life? What has that meant for you overall, and just maybe tying into you finding out who you are and what you want out of life?
I think that he really has pushed me to become like the best person that I can be, and really opened me up to have like a growth mindset.
Cool.
Because that's the way he is, and we're a team. Like, we don't have that stereotypical relationship where it's like, I cook, I clean, and then he comes home and whatever. We bought the business because we want to work together.
Absolutely.
And like, we tag team everything. Like, he might cook and I'll cook something else and we'll both clean. That's just the way we are with everything. And he really supports me in everything I do. And, I try to do the same for him. I think in my past relationships, I've always had issues with not being confident enough because the other person always kind of like would withdraw affection if I was getting too much attention or anything. Like, Derek loves when I am myself and get attention and whatnot. He wants me to be me and be confident.
Yeah.
And that's what makes our relationship great too there.
Cool. And now Derek's involved in real estate, right? He's a real estate agent out here in Colorado Springs?
So he was a real estate agent in Montrose before we moved here.
Okay.
And he owned a hotel out there. And so now, transitioning to Colorado Springs, he's starting his real estate business up. So obviously when you move, that's hard to do because there's just so many contacts. But yeah, we're focusing really a lot on the gyms right now.
Yep.
And then obviously within that marketing of having people walk through, you're like, hey, I'm a real estate agent.
That's right.
Hey, my fiance, so that's like it's awesome.
It's a gold mine, is what I told you the other day. I'm like, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You got 2 gyms, real estate, like it's there's a lot of opportunities. We just we gotta get him on Instagram, right?
Yeah, he does it. He's Instagramless, Derek. It's great.
I've been like one of the first few times I met, I'm like, dude, Instagram, man, like you gotta get on Instagram. He's like, oh, well, you know, Paige is on. I'm like, no, I okay, that's cool, but you gotta get on it, dude. So, yeah. But that's good. We'll keep working on that.
We'll keep working on it for sure.
Sweet. Now if somebody is going to visit Colorado, is there kind of a place out here in the state or maybe the Colorado Springs area that you would encourage somebody to kind of check out? Maybe it's a place that you like to hike or maybe sightsee or something like that. Is there maybe one or two places that you really like to go to and would recommend somebody checking out?
Yeah, so, I mean, I love Colorado Springs because you have the best of both worlds. You have the city, but then you have hiking.
For sure.
You have Pikes Peak and everything.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I would go fly right into Colorado Springs and, you know, you got the Manitou Incline, which obviously everyone sees me post on Instagram. But I really like that hike. Obviously, it's challenging and whatnot, but the view's worth it. And then I love that little city of Manitou Springs, and just like the simplicity, but then that touristy kind of vibe too.
A little woo woo.
Yeah,
Manitou. a little woo woo in Manitou.
Hey, I'm all about food experiences. It's all good.
Absolutely. All right, Paige. So we're gonna kind of just wrap things up here. The last question that I have for you, and again, just kind of just whatever comes up, just right away. What lights you up? What excites you? What sets your soul on fire at this stage in the game for you personally?
I think for me, and what I kind of portray on my social media too, is connecting with people and just letting, like, you got to be authentic. You have to, and you have to show like how you're vulnerable, and that's how people really connect with you. And in my connections is helping people, and that's what, you know, my role as a physical therapist is, and what I do on a daily basis here as a gym owner. And, you know, everyone that comes in I say hi to, I make sure I give them the time of my day, and that's what really is valuable. That's cool.
Now, do you want to share? We were talking the other day when you were stretching me out. it's funny. Do you want to share with the listeners like kind of your first impression of me when I walked in the gym?
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little intimidated. I was like, you came up here and you're like, you know, obviously strong, good looking guy, and you're coming in here and you're like, you know, I need a gym membership.
Now, hang on. Now, for the listeners, I talked to Derek on the phone,
okay.
right? And he's like, "Oh yeah, just go up to the gym, and Paige will be there and she'll help you out." So I walk in, right?
Okay. So I was a little stressed out because I'm working with a client and I didn't have my employee in there, so I'm taking walk-ins while working with someone. So you walk in there and you obviously know what you want, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what can I do for you? I want gym membership. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do that right now. And you're like, well, then I'll come back. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Let's do it. And so, like, I set up a time, but obviously, no, I've enjoyed our time together. I'm really glad you're, you know, I just can't wait until you start getting some traction, because your content and everything you put out here is, like, amazing, and you really show, like, people value in talking to someone and connecting with someone, and like the authenticity and
thank you. Yeah, no, it's cool, and we were talking the other day about, like, you're like, oh yeah, when you first came in, I was like, I don't know about Quentin, but then once we started chatting up, you're like, oh, okay, he's a cool dude. And then I think Liz, one of the girls that works here at the gym, she had said something about, like, Derek and I have similar personalities in some ways, so we can carry on a conversation, chop it up with people. So
yeah, you're very personable.
Cool. All right, so Paige, if anybody wants to reach out to you, kind of follow your journey, check out the two gyms that you guys own, just go ahead, kind of share the social media stuff so that people can reach out and contact you or follow along if they would like.
Yeah, you can follow my personal Instagram. It's just at Paige Victoria Butler, and I just post things on there that make me happy and that help me get through this journey that we call life. So, I like to share stuff on there. And then we own Anytime Fitness Rockrimmon and Anytime Fitness Monument. So if you're in the area, you want to get a workout in, or if you live in the area and you want to join a gym, it's a great gym. We offer that 24/7 access, and it's a small, personable gym with great training and physical therapy.
For sure. Now, for those of you in the Colorado Springs area, Anytime Fitness Rockrimmon is in Colorado Springs. It's just kind of the Rockrimmon is kind of the street or the area, the section of Colorado Springs that it's located. So if you are in Colorado Springs or the area, Anytime Fitness Rockrimmon is in Colorado Springs. I actually trained here, worked out here before Paige and Derek took over, and then have worked out after. And it's a great little gym. And like she said, once you sign up with Anytime Fitness, you have access to Anytime Fitness around the world. So it's great if you travel a lot and things of that nature. There's Anytime Fitnesses, again, around the world. They're usually just great little gyms, pretty quiet. I've been a member for a while. And I would just suggest you guys to check out the Rockrimmon Anytime Fitness, check out the Monument Anytime Fitness, and then just check out Anytime Fitness in general, because it's again a great gym, 24-hour access worldwide. You have access to all of that. So yes. So go ahead. What?
No, I'm gonna say yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, amen. So Paige, thank you very much for spending time with myself and the 127 Fit listeners. I just to the listeners, and I've kind of already said this to you, but you and Derek are awesome. You guys are very personable. You have great personalities, and you guys have changed the environment at the Rockrimmon Anytime Fitness. So I just want to encourage you and Derek just to keep killing it and just keep being those people to follow. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. And I'll put you out there. gotta keep stretching me. That's what I need. So yeah, right.
All right. So listeners, I just want to thank you again so much for hanging out with myself and Paige today on the 127 Fit podcast. It's greatly appreciated. I'm just loving the podcast thing. It's becoming quickly my jam and just more than a side project. It's really becoming a passion project of mine, and I'm so thankful for everybody that tunes in and listens. If you want to reach out to me and kind of follow along what I've got going on in my life, you can find me on Instagram. It's at 127 Fitness. My personal account is at QVars. Facebook is at Quentin Vars. And I would just encourage all of you that are listening, if you're finding value in an episode or the podcast overall, please just leave a 5-star review, comment. Another big thing I'm asking people to do is to take the specific episode or episodes that you're finding that value in, to post them up on your Facebook and Instagram stories and use the hashtag #BeSomeoneToFollow. The more people that kind of see what's going on with the podcast, the more people listen, the more people that are going to be positively impacted. And that's exactly what this whole thing is about. It's positively impacting the world through people sharing their stories. And I know that that's what you want. So just share that stuff on your social media platforms, please. Greatly appreciated. If you think you would be a great guest, or if you have a friend or an acquaintance that you think would be a great guest or guest, you can send me an email or share this email with your friend, what have you. The email is 127fit@gmail.com. Just tell me a little bit about yourself. Maybe give me your social media handle so I can kind of check things out, and then we'll go from there. Then, per the usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, "If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small." This time until next time, I will catch you guys later.